So, this is the dopamine detox assessment. And one of the most important things is to kind of get a sense of where you are at the start of our 40-day assessment. And so, this first part here on the left is about assessing your current habits. And it's kind of like in most things, like even with 12-step programs or many other programs, it's like, okay, where are you right now? And just giving yourself the assessment. So the first question asks, how much time do I spend on my phone or social media daily? And just take a quick moment to think about that. You could either write it down now or you could come back to it later. I know when I think about my entire day and even the 10 minutes that I may grab in between doing something, I may scroll on YouTube and see what's going on. And when I think about how much time all day in a 24-hour period that I spend on my phone, it's quite a lot of time. Does anybody want to share like how much time they think they spend on the phone?
For
Well,
me,
that's, I was going to say, go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
I don't spend so much on the phone, but I'll spend time on my computer or laptop
Mm-hmm.
or sitting in front of TV. So those are the two time-consuming endeavors that I do every day.
Do you know how much time you might spend doing that?
I would say 5 to 7 hours.
Okay.
I'm tired, so
Yeah. So,
I
just,
have to find something else to do.
yeah, for sure. Any, go ahead.
I was going to say, for me, it's not so much the social media of like TikTok because I'm not on TikTok,
Mhm.
but yeah, I do spend time on Instagram, which has really morphed into something than what it originally was just nice pictures and then became everything else. And I've come up with my own, and then YouTube, because YouTube you can always justify, well, I need to be aware of these politics, or this is an interesting thing, and I don't even call it rabbit holes anymore. I call it rabbit, like a rabbit animal, because I'm just like I said, oh, wait a minute, let me stop. It's 2 in the morning. I've been watching this thing. I've been watching 3 videos already about the beings that live in inner Earth that we don't even know if they really exist or not. So I would say I have my moments, and I think what's interesting about that, I don't have a particular number, but I know if I'm dealing with a mental health issue, like it could be a temporary depression, it could be a stress, that's when I really realized that I'm more vulnerable to do that type of behavior. So I have to really be mindful. I mean, in addition to what, you know, the exercise, this particular Kriya, I'll do like some Sitali pranayama or something. And then I find when I do something like that, I'm not so much prone to that behavior. I do on my MacBook get my weekly assessment of what I've been doing, but it's not telling me on what I was doing it on. It wasn't saying, "Oh, you're on," because I do have my Instagram on my laptop, and I do have because I'm old, so I need to type with a full keyboard, full disclosure. And so, but I think what it is too, I can get a feeling of like, oh, that was like a really big time suck. So, and I think, on some level, we all know that, and I have to just be mindful of not letting the distractions really pull me into, no matter what else may be going on in my life, I can't let these distractions pull me into that. So, and when I was talking with Vedi Amrita about this, you know, I said to her, well, let's just be really upfront. We're really teaching ourselves in this sadhana. Even though we've done this meditation before, we've taught this meditation before, it's something else about going through it with a different group of people, and then with all the, the all the planets are moving direct now. So that all has a different that all has a different effect. But I don't want to get long-winded here. I'll just say I spend far too much time on some of these things.
Right. I would agree with you. In a message that I posted today, I share a story about how I got myself caught up into, again, not just on my phone, but on my computer and watching uh, movies or watching things on YouTube about different topics, and how one day I actually spent 20 about 22 hours binge watching a show. Ridiculous. And it was a weekend, it was my day off, and I didn't feel like going out, because in New York it's like you need to have purpose when you go you go out, otherwise that's another time suck. And I was like, wow. And so, like you said, spending far too long on social media. And I think it's good to take a look at just kind of like how we're using our time. The next question, which is not necessarily tied to the first one, but it is an aspect of the behavior and the habits that you create, which is, do I often reach for snacks or caffeine for an energy boost? And if so, like, what is the snack? What is, or your caffeine of choice? And I will say that mine is popcorn. I will make a big tub of popcorn and just sit there and pop, 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 pop. No self control. We have a joke here in our family because I love chocolate. And one of my teachers, which you may know, Doña Leova, whenever I would finish a session with her, she would always hand me a piece of chocolate and say, every day have something sweet. Well, that was the wrong thing she could have told me, because now I can justify having my sweet milk chocolate every night. And it's gotten to the point where I have my mom ration it out to me every night, because if I had a bag, it would not survive a day. So I personally have to be very mindful of, snacking and doing it for energy, or again, feeling something that the habit of scrolling is kind of tied on some level. Any thoughts for for you all, as far as like what may create a food that may create a binge for you?
Yeah. I would say for me, it's not so much one particular thing. Sometimes it's salty or sometimes it's sweet, but it's more, I go for that when it's more for an emotional fulfillment
Yeah.
or a void or something.
Right. Okay.
So again, it's that dopamine. You're looking for something to make you feel good or feel better. Or like with the scrolling, it's distracted. So you're not thinking about whatever is the void or whatever is missing.
Exactly. And that can give you a hit that like something else is not hitting, because there is a void, there is something that's missing, that it's filling that space. Very good. Another aspect of, thinking about the void, or thinking about avoidance, or filling something, is looking at, am I overscheduling myself or constantly multitasking? And Prabhu and I had this conversation that, he said, I don't believe in multitasking. And I was like, started thinking about that. And I was like, yeah, I kind of see that. But on some level, it's like, is multitasking walking and looking in your phone? And then are you, when you're in a multitasking state, you're really not giving and being present with that one thing that you're doing. You're distracting that experience of, maybe one of the things you should be doing. So it's an interesting concept to think about over scheduling yourself and the concept of multitasking and what is truly multitasking and what is truly avoiding something that you should be doing as it relates to a task. So something to think about there. The next question to ponder is, do I feel restless or anxious when I'm not busy? Why or why not? Any thoughts on that you'd like to share? And, if not, that's okay. You guys have been sharing quite a bit. I will share that when I'm not busy and bored, um, I'll say it two ways. When I'm not busy, I feel guilty for not being busy. And then that guilt may lead to some degree of boredom. And then that boredom is when I then find myself moving into well, let me see what's on Netflix. How many seasons does this have? Okay, good. I'm in there, you know. And sometimes I pick shows based on how many seasons it has, because then I know I'll get a long range of being involved in something if I'm in a place where I'm not busy and I want something to do instead of maybe something else I should be doing, like reading a book. It's like, why don't I binge on that versus, you know, a quick hit of dopamine through something else? Any other thoughts about feeling anxious or or any kind of feeling or emotion that comes up when you're not busy?
I can share because I'm retired, so um, I have more time. And at first I thought, oh, I should be doing this and this and this, and then the projects, and then I said, well, I'm enjoying my time, but it does. I feel like as a human, you do need to feel productive. So I guess I just need to find, like you said, read a book instead, or you know, go for a walk or do some volunteer work or something. So.
Yeah, I totally hear you on that. I moved to Atlanta and I lived with my parents because I wanted to be here to help them. They've been retired for quite a bit. Um, but now, and their thing is cruising. So that's what they do to get them out and about and active and curious about the world. But when they don't have a cruise scheduled, making sure that there's something for them to do. The winter was very hard because like their thing would be going out and um, taking care of the plants and pulling out weeds and working in the yard, working in the gardens that they have. My dad loves building, so he's built like several swings in the yard and all these things, and that kept them active and doing just being engaged with something different. Um, but this winter, they didn't have as many cruises, and it was very challenging, for them. So my dad got really into his gaming. My mom got really into solitaire, you know. So you're right. If you can find a productive way to use that time to get a dopamine hit in a positive way, in a way that feels good to you, and doesn't feel like, oh, I've just lost time or I've wasted time, that's a really good option for you. Um, so, in our next section, we talk about, well, what habits am I ready to let go of? And this is something that may show up as we go through the 40 days, because generally, when we are looking to break a habit, they'll show themselves up in resistance as we, meditate. Um, so take some time and think about um, what habits you're ready to let go of as we move through our 40-day cycle. And then the next question is, what habits would help me feel more balanced? So um, what can I begin to create as a new habit during this 40-day cycle that will bring balance? Like, okay, yeah, we can, there's no problem with, going on YouTube and researching and finding out new and interesting things, and being on Instagram, catching up with your friends and family. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. But what would help you feel more balanced in relationship to that? And so these are some thoughts that you can put down on in your guide, and keep up with that. And again, through the 40-day period, it may show up some ideas of like, oh, this felt balanced, or oh, I did the meditation today and I found this helped me to not um, be on my computer so much, or binge watching a show so much, or on Instagram so much. And then the third question, as we begin to think about how I want to move forward in creating new habits, is how do I want to feel by the end of this week? Meaning, by the end of each week that we are um, working together through our 40-day cycle, kind of like setting an intention at the start of the week. What will be some of those intentions for you, so that you uh, can have a focal point? And then our last page is just um, some ways to identify. It's basically like, a note taking section where you can identify the things that you want to start to incorporate as new habits. It may be like, okay, instead of me getting um, 6 pieces of chocolate, I'm going to tell my mom only to give me one. or or maybe having a little less popcorn, or having a different treat. Maybe you know timing myself on how much time I use on social media, on Instagram, on TikTok, if you're on TikTok, giving yourself a limited amount of time, and then fill it with maybe another hobby that you want to start um, to incorporate into your daily practice. Um, so those are some things that you can think about and maybe jot down here. And again, during your 40-day cycle, you may find that more things will come into into your into your mind, into your thoughts regarding what you want to replace this old habit with. And one of the things that's really important is that when we take away something out of our psyche, out of our practice that doesn't serve us, it's very important to replace it with something else that is more positive. Because if you just get rid of one thing and you don't fill it with something positive, there's the chance of that old habit fitting right back into that slot. So if we can fill it with a new experience, a new habit, a new hobby, then we will have the opportunity to be more successful as we work to remove any of these blocks.